but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound.
All right, everyone, welcome to What's the Rush with me, your teammate on this adventure. And this is a place where we explore the truths that reveal themselves when we finally slow down enough to listen. And this show isn't about the medals, the titles, the highlight reels. It's really about what we learn in the spaces in between, the moments that shape us long after the crowds fade and the cameras turn off. And so today's guest, Kaya Turski, is so perfect for this kind of reflection. She is someone whose story really signifies the depth in a powerful way. She's 8-time X Games gold medalist, world champion, and she's really a defining pioneer in women's slopestyle skiing. She pushed the sport into new territory, was groundbreaking tricks, and competing when the sport was really being born. And she has a style that was fearless, creative, and she's inspired a whole generation of athletes. But like so many of the people I'm honored to speak with, Kaya is so much more than her accolades. She's really experienced the highest highs, the lowest lows, and her journey includes multiple injuries, surgeries, chronic pain, and the emotional toll of performing under relentless pressure. She's navigated complicated identity shifts that come with stepping away from the spotlight, and she's now found a path rooted in honesty, presence, and internal trust. And she works today as a mindset coach, helping others strengthen the inner foundation that high performance demands. And she's also an Olympic analyst for freestyle skiing. Her personal philosophy, I love this, is fly always. And it's about taking leaps, even when the winds shift, and finding a sense of self that can weather every season of life. So we're going to talk about courage, reinvention, what happens when we stop chasing perfection and start listening to what our hearts and our bodies really need. Kaya, I am so glad you're here. Welcome to What's the Rush?
Oh, Rebecca, first of all, thank you. That was such a beautiful introduction, very generous. And just having, learned a lot about you in the last few weeks. Can't believe it's been so long since I've heard about you and we're actually meeting today. But I think we have so much to dive into. I'm just so thrilled to be here with you. So thanks for having me.
Okay, I feel the same way. Yeah, we've kind of operated in very similar circles, but never have had the chance to meet. So this is a real gift for me. And did I miss any? I mean, we're going to get into a lot of stuff, but did I miss anything really critical in that intro?
No, I think it had a bunch that we can chip away into right in there. So
Awesome. So, Kaya, I mean, sports and athletics and being a competitive athlete, that's kind of been your history and really defined you. But from my understanding, you got involved really young with inline skating and playing in parks. Can you talk a little bit about your entry into sport and finding it and kind of how you felt when you found sports?
yes, yes. So freestyle sports are my true love, and um, I fell in my first love, rollerblading, aggressive inline rollerblading, when I was 9 years old. I discovered the skate park, and once I discovered it, dropped down my first ramp, I never looked back. I just spent every waking hour that I could at the skate park, and that's really where I built my foundation of air awareness and balance and transitions, understanding the creative aspect of freestyle. And so I
Was
had a
there
different
someone
trajectory.
Can I ask you, was there someone who got you involved in sports as a kid, or did you see your friends doing it, or like, how did you arrive at the park?
I've always been pretty wild. Like I was a bit of a wild child growing up, and I was a bit out there. I was different than most kids. So instead of going down the slide like every other kid when I was 4 or 5, I'd be yelling to mom, like, watch me jump off the slide. I wanted to do extreme stuff, and I like to challenge myself. And so it just happened that I was rollerblading with my dad. We had this weekly rollerblade date, and someone saw me jumping stairs and was like, oh, you got to check out the park. And as soon as I heard about a skate park and saw it, I was like, this is everything I've been, waiting for without even knowing it. Like, this is my world. And so it was just this natural marriage right away. I loved it. I breathed it, my heart and soul. And so a bit untraditional background. Most skiers start skiing very young and then they join clubs. I was a rollerblader and I'm known in the ski industry as the rollerblader, and I'm proud about it. And then when I was 16, I tried skiing. I had an opportunity to go to a ski jam, and horrible skier. Like obviously you can imagine me just like slipping, sliding all over the place, but I could do tricks. I could grind a rail. I could do little jumps. And I thought, wow, like I could be pretty good at this. Like, and this is a lot of fun. And so I had been a professional rollerblader at that point, but things were kind of slow, small industry, very little support. And I thought, I want to give skiing a go. And so I negotiated with my parents. They let me move out west to Whistler once I graduated high school. And I spent, I lived about an hour out of Whistler. I took the Greyhound every day to the mountain and just taught myself to ski. And so that was the beginning of my ski career at 17.
She's so young and so brave and so courageous to one be just like throwing your body off things and have that learn that air awareness so young, but then to take the bold move to like move away from home and take the bus and go skiing. Like I love that kind of passion and courage that you had at such a young age.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, and I think one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given from my parents or in general is just this freedom to fly, this freedom to pursue things that inspire me, things that challenge me. And of course they supported me, they took care of me, but they also let me fall and learn to get back up on my own. And that was a very early lesson that I could try hard things and either successfully complete them, which, made me more confident, or I could fall and I could get back up and I could try again. Right. And so those were really valuable lessons very early on. And I'm so grateful my parents gave me those opportunities to fly, to challenge myself.
Good job, mom and dad. My mom was the
Yes.
same way.
Yeah, such a gift, such a gift.
I mean, it sounds all really bold and brave and fearless and like, no problem, I'm just going to do this. I think athletes are often, and you look at your resume and it's just like the first to do this trick, the first to do that trick, and the most medals in X Games. And I think people assume that someone like you is fearless and doesn't feel pain and doesn't get scared. Is that an accurate depiction of a freestyle athlete?
Oh, it's funny. I smile because that is such a common question,
Yeah.
especially to freestyle athletes. I've heard that many times. And
Hmm.
it's a really common misconception
Yeah.
that we don't feel fear. And in fact, I feel fear very acutely. But the way I think about it is that I've developed a relationship with fear. So I understand, when it comes up, I confront it, or I learned to confront it in skiing. And now I'm learning to confront it in my day to day, my
Yeah.
personal life. And so it's recognizing what's going on in my system, what are the messages, and then, calculating the risk, calculating where's that balance between, pushing forward, quote unquote, taking the leap, but also remaining safe.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't have fear, jumping on 100-foot kickers, I'd probably be dead,
Yeah.
because you need a certain amount of fear to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, I mean, I asked that question because I get the question all the time too, and I kind of roll my eyes at it a little bit of like, oh, you don't feel pain. We share, you have a Queen of Slope Style nickname, and I have a nickname, the Queen of Pain.
That's
And so
right.
people
I've
are
heard of that.
always like, I'm like, oh, we have a lot in common. And people are like, oh, well, you don't feel pain. It's like, no, I have a relationship and I understand it and I can work with it. And it's a like pain is a four-letter word that gets a bad rap, or it's not a four-letter word and it gets a bad rap because it really is. As far as sport, um, there's a couple kinds of pain. You know, there's the kind of pain that's like doing a hard workout and you've chosen to push yourself. Like you said, choosing to do hard things, like in the skate park. And then there's the pain of an injury. That is totally two different things with the same word. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because you have a really deep relationship with the unchosen kind of pain as far as injury, versus a kind of pain of pushing yourself and doing hard things.
Yeah, pain is complex and so multifaceted, and there is this type of pain, like you mentioned, that comes with pushing yourself and having to push through difficulty in order to expand your comfort zone, to build your skill set, to do things that have never been done before. That
Yeah.
requires a certain amount of pain. And then there's also, like you mentioned, like this unwanted pain that comes from, um, I don't know, life. Like, life throws many curveballs, and a lot of disappointments that I've lived, and a lot of heartbreak in different kinds of ways. And things that I think as athletes, as type A people, I don't want to speak for you, but you seem like a go-getter type A. I'm used to being in control, and that kind of pain I can tolerate. But the other kind of pain, the unexpected, that's where I think the real work comes in.
Yeah.
Because it's life will always hand you things from all different angles, and so in order to really continue to expand our capacities, we need to lean into that pain and get to know it from all angles.
Well, let's talk about, there's been a couple really, really pivotal, like unchosen painful moments in your competitive sports career. You actually entered before your first X Games, you were coming in off injuries before you really hit the scene in the X Games. And then post Olympics in Sochi, you also had a pretty big sort of devastating injury hits. Do you want to talk about either or both of those periods of
Sure,
what you were going through?
let's
Because
dive into
it's
the
interesting,
pain.
there are kind of bookended your really high profile competitive career was like coming in through injury and then exiting through injury. But I'm
Yeah.
wondering, were you in the same mindset in those two spaces, or were they different?
My career was sprinkled with injury. I mean, throughout a lot of successes, incredible highs. I went through a lot of difficult rehabs, surgeries. I've been through 4 knee reconstructions. I've had shoulder surgery, pancreatic surgery. So the pancreatic surgery was the one that kicked off my career, which was
Right.
really huge,
Starting your career.
wonderful, that the debut that I wasn't really going for, but that's the way it happened. And that's right. I signed my first pro contract. I think I was 18 years old. So I'm on top of the moon. I've got so much to prove. I'm hungry. I'm coming in and feeling invincible, and go to my first pro event ever. And I compete. I land my first jump, but my second jump, I landed a bit off axis. I still landed, but I went a little off to the side. It was a man-made jump. I'm going to try to condense this story, but basically ended up hitting the ground so hard. The impact was so hard that I sliced my pancreas in half over my spine. So I'm coughing. I'm coughing up blood. They know right away it's really serious. And I was rushed into emergency surgery in the ICU for a couple of weeks in San Francisco, and was sent home, with doctors telling me I probably need to, leave the skis in the garage and think about moving on from this career that I hadn't even started. I'm
Yeah.
18 years old and you're telling me it's over.
Yeah.
And so, obviously went through a pretty difficult phase at that point. There was a lot of wrestling between depression, but there was also this light in me that was like, I have so much to prove. This is just the beginning for me. If there's even just a sliver of a chance, like, let's go. I gotta do my best. I gotta try my best. And so I was able to make it back out, blew my knee out 2 weeks in. So first 2 years of my career, were a bust. But that really gave me an opportunity to get to know, I guess, the dark side of things, to confront that pain, and to really start to build more resilience, to build resilience. I think you're no stranger to that. I'd love to hear your experience in that. But it's you need the hardship to know what you can go through and to know what you can survive. And that in a way gives you this platform, this space to take leaps from, because you know that you have this landing zone. You know that you can get through it. And so I just I buckled down, I visualized, and I went on to then win the X Games many times. And yeah, and then I had those injuries that I mentioned sprinkled throughout. The injury that you mentioned at the end, was I didn't have this one significant, huge injury that ended my career, but I got a concussion at some point in my career, and I had pain, headaches, chronic pain, that went on first for months and then went on to years. And I sought a lot of help, and I just didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to listen to my body. And over time, all the impacts over and over and over, all the whiplash, probably more undiagnosed concussions. And I really, really hurt myself. I really hurt myself. And that forced me into a retirement a year before the 2018 Olympics. It wasn't my choice. This is something that was out of my control. And I've been living and managing with ever since.
Did you, in that period, leading up to the Olympics, post 2014 Olympics, and then you were going towards 2018 Olympics, was there, maybe it was chosen for you? I'm just wondering, did you keep trying to push and keep trying to, that kid who is like, I'm going to do this. I just signed my pro contract. You learned all this resilience and how to get up after falling down. And that's what you had learned, that skill set. That then towards the end of your career, were there a lot of people and a lot of signs telling you, hey, Kaya, it's time to stop? And you're like, no, I can push. I can do this. Was that what you were going through?
I just had I was just my identity was so intricately tied to my skiing, to
Yeah.
who I was as an athlete. And I actually it was a bit of the opposite in terms of people around me. Like, I was suffering inside, but it's a silent suffering. It's an invisible suffering, chronic pain. And so most people around me were like, keep going, you got this, let's go one more year. And I just and in a way, and I had such great support. I had wonderful friends and family and sponsors. So this isn't a knock on anybody. But in a way, like, that encouragement kind of fueled me, and it really made this war inside of me even more difficult, of like, I am hurting so much inside and I don't know how I can go on, but I do feel like I'm still a great skier, and everybody out there is still supporting me. And so it took a long time. It took a really long time for me to finally, throw my hands in the air and say, I surrender. Like, this is enough. It's enough.
Making that, like, a day of making that decision that, yes, I'm retiring from competitive sport and this is going to happen, and I'm going to kind of come clean and be honest with my friends and my family and my sponsors in the world about this. Do you remember that? Was it a
Yeah.
moment, or yeah?
I do. I sure do. I mean, of course, it was building inside of me for a long time. But I remember it was World Champs in 2017 in Spain. And I took a hard crash, and I was just like, that hurt, but I had already been hurting so much. And I thought, this is just, I'm killing myself out here. I'm really hurting myself. And it was a tough moment. But I told my coach, I said, I'm done. I'm done. Pull me out of the event, and I'm done. And very difficult, but also cathartic. I was finally leaning in. But before you ask me, Rebecca, my next question, like, how about you? Do you remember that? Because I know this is a really significant piece in an athlete's life and identity. So what was your experience like?
I've had a thank you for asking. I've had a 3 decade long competitive sports career in multiple different sports. And a lot of people think of me as a professional cyclist. I didn't start competing in cycling until age 38. And
Oh my
so,
God.
and got some world
Incredible.
championships and a lot of success, but that was 38. So before that, I was rock climbing and kayaking and adventure racing and doing other stuff. So I've had a really long career that's been sprinkled with a lot of transition, which that's what I attribute my longevity to, is I've done a lot of different things. Kind of
Hmm.
like you could take your inline skating and your park, that transferred right into freestyle skiing. So a lot of the stuff I've done, especially ultra endurance stuff, it's a mindset. And if your body can go the distance for days, it kind of doesn't matter what sport you're in. And I'll tell you, when I started mountain biking, um, I was so bad technically. And the first article that was written about me was titled Winning Ugly in Bicycling Magazine. And it was basically just saying, how can this person win endurance bike races because she really can't ride a bike? And it was a
Wow.
mindset thing, so which we're going to get into. But for me to end my competitive career, I think it was really the concussion that ended it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And for me to finally admit, and I've been hanging on for a while and being like, oh, I'll just do another sport and I'll keep doing different things, and was very resistant, and I still am. I don't like to say the word to athletes, when are you going to retire from your sport? I like to say retire from competitive, from competition, or because as athletes, this is what we do. It's what we
Hmm.
love. It's where we find our flow state. It's our community. And so I'm being very careful now when I talk to athletes to not say, when are you going to retire from your sport? It's like from competition. And what I love about your career trajectory, and you're an inspiration and a model for me, is that for a while, through a very dark period of concussion recovery, and our mutual friend, Dr. Michael Gervais, was really helpful for me. I actually called him in one of my darkest moments and was like, I don't know what to do. And I went through a lot of therapy and a lot of discussions, and I thought initially that I had to kill the athlete in order for the next person, Rebecca, who is the next person of Rebecca? And I finally came to the realization that I don't have to kill the athlete. The athlete is me. Just how the athlete expresses is what would change from competition to, doing my sport in a different way. And so that's a long answer, but I think we've gone through a similar transition, and this is something that I love to share with people, is your history. And even in the intro, I was careful to say this: your competitive athlete career is part of your foundation of who you are as a human being. And so it never goes away. You hopefully build on that skill set into what you're doing now, which is actually a mindset coach and using your athletic skill, and performance knowledge to help other people perform through finding mastery. Um, so yeah, it's a great question. We're aligned in that. I think it's really hard for people to transition, and it's quite common. Is for athletes especially, but everyone experiences multiple transitions in their
Yes.
life. Whether parents and their kids leave the house, and then you're like, what do I do now? So we are speaking from an athlete template, but this kind of transition of what you did for your career, or you were a mom, or you were a whatever label you want to put on it, we all transition those labels. Um,
Yep.
yeah. Is that
I
resonating with you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm taking so many notes right now because
I love
there's
it.
so many nuggets in there. I love I love the way you highlight, like, I'm not the athlete, or, it's not one or the other. It's like, it's this all encompassing, like, you are your foundation, you are your experiences. And even when you retire from sport or from whatever else, like, incredible the way that you've transitioned from so many into so many sports, by the way, Rebecca. Like, that is absurd and amazing. I just want to highlight that. But your point about, this is universal. we all experience these moments of transition. And I think in general in society, we place so much value on what we do. And as athletes, we've been so lucky to to love so passionately and be so just in it with what we're doing. And that's such a gift. And sometimes it's people, you're not as aligned. And I think this question, right after we ask someone their name is, what do you do? And sometimes it's really cool to talk about what you do because it's a big piece of who you are. And sometimes that there's a lot more to me, and either way, there's so many layers to the person. And that's what I love about the work that I do with Dr. Mike at Finding Mastery is we talk a lot about performance, but we're getting deep into what are your values?
Yeah.
What do you care about? What are your first principles? What do you want to be? What do you want to be intentional about bringing forward on a day-to-day basis?
I'm kind of trying to find different questions to ask people when I meet them. It's like, hi, my name is so-and-so, and something different, like, what are you excited about right now? And
Yes.
what do you think about that?
I mean, I feel the same way. I try to avoid that question because I
Yeah.
think it just really reinforces this identity, this molding with what you do. And as you mentioned, it's a part of who we are, our past experiences, our past success, our past failures, it's all part of who we are today. It's certainly shaped who I am, but I don't want to be recognized solely as one thing. I am so many things. I care about so many things. And I think humans are multifaceted. We have layers to us. We live and love, and so that's what I love about the work we do at Finding Mastery with Dr. Mike is we talk about mindset skills and high performance, but we really first get into the meat of who you are. What are your values? What do you care about? Like you mentioned, what excites you? I think these are the questions that really answer about someone's identity, and then what you do is a piece of that, of course.
So how do you introduce yourself now, based on maybe 6 or 7 years ago? Like, I'm
Oh,
Kaya Turski, I what?
you know what? Oh man, that's such a good question because it's ever evolving, Rebecca. Today I'm a lover of nature. I'm a lover of the world. Um, I'm a lover of my friends and my community. They are the people holding me up and keeping me strong. I'm an artist, I'm a creative, and I'm a mindset coach, and
Yeah.
I'm a, CBC sports analyst for the Olympics. Those are pieces of me. But I do try to start with these are the things that I love. These
Yeah,
are the things I really truly care about. Not that I don't care about my work. I
of
love my
course.
work, and I'm very privileged to say that. But this, again, just the multifaceted aspect of humans. How about you? How do you introduce yourself?
Well, I love how you keep turning it on to me. I was going to ask you first, so what role does sport play in this sort of smorgasbord of who Kaya is?
That's been something I've had a lot of difficulty adjusting
Hmm.
to, which is I'm not able to do sport. I'm
Yeah.
not really able to do it anymore. My movement is walking.
Hmm.
Otherwise, everything flares in my head. And
Yeah.
so, one of the things that I really, speaking of identity, one of the things I really want to do this year, we're just starting the new year, is be more honest and authentic about
Yep.
that part of my life and that loss. And, if I look at my Instagram, for example, you see some clips of me rollerblading. And so that can be misguiding because I rollerblade maybe twice a year, and then the price that I pay is really heavy. So I think people see me from the outside and they think I'm doing all this cool, exciting stuff, and really I'm really quite grounded. And I miss it. I miss movement a lot.
Yeah.
A lot is an understatement. I know you're a huge proponent of sport and movement. And so, um, I think you can imagine my pain. Maybe it's been difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, movement is medicine, and
Hmm.
during my long recovery, it's just over 4 years now from my concussion. Um, yeah, I lost movement and didn't move, and
Mm.
there's a real grieving process that you're probably going through, grieving like the loss of part of you, that part of your foundation. How are you dealing with that grief?
It is a grief. It is a type of grief, absolutely. And it sometimes feel like it's this ongoing grief because
Yeah,
it's not quote unquote resolved. You
yeah,
know, I don't know if I'll ever
right.
be able to ski. I haven't skied since 2017, since I've
Yeah,
retired. So it's
yeah,
been 8 years. I I find, I lean into the other things that I love,
right.
like the things I mentioned, art and creativity and other aspects. I love the creative aspect of freestyle. I love being able to
Yeah.
play around and lean into style and different tricks and express myself in that way. And so I try to find different ways to express that creativity that's just not through sport.
Yeah.
And I can't deny it's been a struggle, an ongoing struggle. And that's just a part of who I am today. I think it paints a fuller picture if I express this part of myself. I've experienced so many highs. I've literally stood atop some of the highest peaks, or I'm speaking to an adventure climber, so I know it's not the highest peaks, but like some extremely high peaks on top of the world. And I've also been through some of, I think, the greatest depths, that a human can go. And I it's a day-to-day thing. I wake up and I do my best.
I want to circle up to back to Dr. Mike Gervais, the founder of Finding Mastery. He was the very first person to help me launch this podcast. Amazing guy, mutual friend, and you work for him on as a coach, a mindset coach for Finding Mastery. But he was also your performance coach during your competitive years. And I'm really interested. One, I think it's super cool that you're taking your mindset skills, working with Finding Mastery, and some of the classes that you've mentioned. I want to dive into as far as like finding your values and
Hmm.
defining, finding your best. Because I've gone through a couple of those too, and it's well, I guess first question is that where Fly always came from, was working through the defining your values with Finding Mastery.
Yeah, so I work with Dr. Mike today, and I worked as a client or as an athlete with him through Red Bull, and that was 2011. I was introduced to him, so 2 or 3 years into my career, and I'd already had, or yeah, about 3 years into my career. I'd had some success already. And so when I met him, it was just like this, I grabbed on, I was like, this is such a cool opportunity. I'd always thought a lot about the mental aspect of sport. I'd always been fascinated by it. And here was my opportunity to really lean in and learn more. And so I was pretty great. And then I just got even better and more
Yeah.
consistent working with Mike. And it also, I mean, there was the performance aspect, which was incredible. I learned so much. And then there was this piece, like you brought back, is getting to know the person, really confronting who I was. And I remember Mike at one point leaned in and he said, "Kaya, why are you here?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Why am I here in this room? Like, I don't know. I want to get better. I want to be better. I want to be the best." He's like, "No, Kaya, why are you here on this earth?" And I'm like 25 years old at this
Yeah.
point, and I'm just like, "Mike, what are you talking about? Do people even know this stuff? Can people answer this question?" And he says, "Of course, yes." And so that was the first time I was really like, my world was shook. And it opened up this whole other question of, who am I outside
Mm.
of my athletics? what do I represent? What do I want to represent? And that's really where the values work comes in. And that's a lot of what we lean into at Finding Mastery. So I was an athlete with him, and then it came around full circle, and now I'm a mental performance coach with his company, Finding Mastery. And so we do that work. We dig deep and come up with a personal philosophy. I think you've done some of this work, and yeah, getting down to your values, your first principles is a big part of that work.
Were you able to answer that question that he has this way of just getting right in? Were you able to answer that at 25? Why are you here? Or did you have to think about it for a while?
Okay, so I couldn't answer right in that moment, but it got me spinning, or it got me working, my mind really working and thinking. And so Fly Always for me, it represents three, basic principles. And the first one is creating space. And I remember working with Dr. Mike, I was so nervous to expose myself as a human being. I'd been so used to wearing this. I mean, literally, I wear this black mask. You have goggles on. No one could really see me. It's this impenetrable, quote unquote, queen of slope style. And so it was really tough work for me, really vulnerable. And what Dr. Mike modeled in our work is creating space for somebody, creating safety for somebody to really just be themselves and to bring their whole selves. And I remember driving home from our session and thinking, part of my work on this earth is to create space, to show others that they are okay as their whole selves, the good, the bad, the ugly. And so that ties right into my personal philosophy today, is create space through honesty. I want to be honest about my journey. I want to be authentic.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is take the leap. So do hard shit, lean into it, whether that's through sport or whether that's confronting your deepest fears or some of the darkest parts of you that are really uncomfortable to confront. And then the last piece is to hopefully inspire, to light people up, light a fire under people's asses so they get going, So anyway, that's a lot right there in that answer, but that's 10 years worth of work right there.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a decade's worth of work of really thinking and articulating why are we on this world and what are we doing, and standing on top of a podium is as I've always talked about, I'm so grateful for world championships and wins and stuff like that, because they're a springboard really for the next part, to be able to bring some light to other people, to be able to get people out there for their own podium. So they're springboards. I'm pretty sure when, people who look at your competitive career and even hearing your kind of your mantra now of fly always and taking risk, probably most people are going to assume that that's sports related for you. Mm-hmm. But here we're talking and you're saying, I can't do my sport, I can walk. And mm-hmm. So what does it look like now to fly? What does it look like now to take risk?
Yeah, so that's definitely, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think I used to only think about taking leaps and doing hard stuff and taking risk as something I would do in sport, something physical. And for a long time, I didn't recognize what I was going through was hard, and the way that I was showing up was commendable, and that I was, getting up on a hard day when I have a pain of 8 out of 10 and choosing to, lean into self-care, take a bath, whatever, like that's my high performance. At times it's really taking care of myself, having hard conversations with my loved ones. That's hard stuff, being honest about the hardships, being honest about what I'm going through and sharing the painful part of my journey. That's for me taking risks and doing hard stuff. And so it looks completely different today, but I'm really leaning into that. And one last thing, which I think is crucial in my journey, and I'm just learning this. I mean, I just a couple months ago, I really started to confront the inner turmoil that is happening in my system around the pain. I did everything to escape the pain, just escape, escape, escape. I didn't want to confront any of it because it hurts inside. It hurts inside my body. And I've been meditating a lot and just sitting with the pain and sitting with whatever comes up emotionally, physically, and just reminding myself that I'm here for myself, and I'm listening, and that I'm okay, that through the great, I'll be there, and through the really tough shit, I'll also be there. I will stand in the center of the fire with myself. And so that's, for me, some really hard shit, I'll tell you. And that's how I continue to fly.
There's a lot there. Thank you for sharing and being so open. I was just talking to somebody yesterday. I was out skiing with a friend. We were backcountry skiing, and I don't know her very well. She lost her husband about a year ago, and I lost my mom about a year ago. And we're acquaintances, and we're skiing up, and she sort of dropped back and said to me, she's like, I know people don't talk about this kind of stuff, but I just want to let you know I was thinking about you and your mom over the holidays recently. And I was like, thank you. And I said, yeah, why do we not acknowledge when somebody's hurting or how, and I said, thank you so much. And I said, I've been thinking about you and your husband as well. And the first time we met was on a ski. And I was like, well, thanks for breaking that mold of people being afraid to reach out to somebody who's hurting or suffering, or for us personally to say, hey, I'm not doing so great, or I could use a hug or whatever it is. We've got such this shield around, or not knowing what to say to somebody. Probably a lot of your friends are like, what do I say? Your ski friends even are like, what do we say to Kaya? Like, ooh, I mean, even now I was like telling the story about going skiing, and it popped into my head like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say this because Kaya isn't skiing. So we have this barrier of like, I don't want to hurt somebody,
Mm-hmm.
so I end up not being honest with them.
Mm.
Do you feel like people are afraid to approach you or to ask you, or to kind of, they don't want to like insult you or hurt you, and so they say nothing?
I'm sure. I think
Yeah.
so. It's certainly a difficult topic to address, and I
Mhm.
think what your friend did the other day was really a beautiful and vulnerable moment, and
Yeah.
I'm glad she extended that, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I'm
But it
sure.
made me open up and realize, wow, that was really nice that somebody just acknowledged. And then we
That's
kept
right.
skiing. Like it wasn't a big deal. It was just, but
Well,
it was really nice. It was a big deal. I shouldn't say it wasn't a big deal. It was simple, but it was very touching.
yeah, that's the thing. Like just being able to acknowledge hardship and
Hmm.
see that someone might be going through something difficult, even if you don't necessarily understand it, or have that common experience. Just to be able to express like, "Hey, I see you. I see you're hurting, and I'm sorry for it," can go such a long way. And I think we all, athlete or whatever you are, like we all go through hardship and loss. And that's, I think, what ties us all together. Like that is what we all have in common, is that we're all going to go through hardship. And so it's unfortunate that we don't talk about it more, because it can be a very lonely space.
Yeah.
And the more that we can extend an arm and say, "Hey, I see you. I'm with you. I can sit with it, and in this with you." The more I think we can unite and get through our hardships.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious of the skill set that you developed as an athlete and retiring from competitive sport, and then now your work in mindset coaching. In that period when you were retiring from sport, I mean, I think I read somewhere that you moved home and you didn't work for 6 years, and you spent a very long time healing and grounding and going back to be with your family. Do you want to talk about what your needs were at that time and how were they met and the decision to move home?
Oh, yeah. That was a very difficult period in my life. I was living in LA. I lived just a few blocks down from the Red Bull headquarters, actually. And so I was there all the time. Like, I lived by the beach. Like, I was living this wonderful life. And at some point, I was pursuing an education as well. I'd always dreamt of being a sports psychologist. I was like, I want to be Mike 2.0. Like, this is what
Yeah.
I'm going to do in life. And because like the work is just so fascinating. And so I made it into UCLA Psych. This was a big goal for me. And I think I lasted maybe a month. And this is after like years of deferrals and reduced course loads. And I mean, I tried for so long and I finally just surrendered and said, I can't live on my own. I can't do this on my own. My family's in Montreal and never thought I'd move back to Montreal. I really loved my California life, but I couldn't survive. I
Yeah.
couldn't survive. So I moved home back to my mom's. And that's right. I didn't work for about a 6 year period because I was just hurting immensely physically and subsequently emotionally. Really had very low capacity to do anything. And so, really dark time in my life, really had to wrestle with a lot and confront a lot. And then about 2.5 years ago, I started working at a shop, just kind of getting my feet wet. And I called Mike, and it was a cold call, and he took my call also, just like with you. And I don't even know, I wasn't looking for anything. I just called him. I said, Mike, like I don't know what I'm doing in my life. What it's not enough. You know me. You know I need to fly. I need to spread my wings. I'm here in Montreal and I feel lost. And I'm just calling because you're one of the people who knows me best in this world. I just don't know what to do. And he extended his hand and he said, Kaya, like, you're great. Like, Mike, like, you're great. Like, he's like this peppy, like, but like so authentically, like, you know, just, yeah, warm and bright. And he said, like, you know this, like, you know all the mindset work we've ever done. Like, I started a company. It's called Finding Mastery. And I'm recruiting right now. Like, just come, this stuff, like it's on the back of your hand. Um, and just join the team. You can work as much as you can, or as little as you can, like whatever you want. You're going to be great at this. Come join the team. And I wasn't expecting that, obviously, but I thought, wow, like this is what I've always wanted to do, is work with people. I want to share what I've learned along the way. It was, in a way, a selfish pursuit, not in a negative sense, but just very me. I wanted to be great. I pursued, and I had a lot of people helping me. And so this is my opportunity to come around and to lean into, what I learned and share my experiences. So that's how it all came full circle, working with Dr. Mike and joining the team, getting back in the workforce.
I mean, how cool that somebody who was an integral part of your career performance in competition is now this integral part of your second part of your career in sports psychology, which is where you were trying to work anyway, and you're trying to study and get a degree, but you didn't need that degree because you kind of already have that degree, to be honest with you. And you just needed a place for it to land, and it's with your own coach.
Yeah, the serendipity of it, it really did come full circle, and I never expected this door to open up. I really went through that rough period. I didn't think I'd make it out, honestly, Rebecca. And so to be here today talking about my work with Mike, and just be really expanding into that role and loving it and learning so much and tapping into what I'd always dreamt of doing post retirement from skiing, is really, really a gift, a huge gift. And I have so much gratitude for it.
Can you talk about that moment where you picked up the phone and dialed a phone number of somebody that you could trust? And this is your story, but it's also, I think, for a lot of people, of making the move to pick up the phone and reach out. Can you describe what you were going through and your decision And you've already described the feeling of like someone picking up and being like, I
Hmm.
got you. So yeah,
Yeah.
walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you're
Where were you
going through
at in
something,
the moment of that call and what made you call him?
I think when we're going through such hard times, like it's really, we feel isolated and we go inward. And I certainly did. And this was just this point of like full vulnerability and thinking, I need help. I really need help. And I need to reach out to someone who I know cares for me and I know knows me well. And I need to be heard, and so I called Mike um, so just having Mike pick up and I said, "Hey, you got time for an old friend?" And he says, "Always, of course." And so just putting all my guards down and being vulnerable and reaching out in that moment of need and having someone who cares, who values me, pick up and again create that space, just like he had in the past when I was an athlete. Um, it was so valuable. It can be really hard to reach out because we isolate, we go inward when we go through difficult things, or that's the human tendency. And so, but it's the opposite of what we need to do. It's to be able to put your guard down and reach out is hugely important, or it has been in my life.
How do we, as humans that care about our other friends, family, whoever it is, how do we be that voice on the other end of the phone, or even instead of waiting for the phone call? How does somebody be supportive but not nosy, be there, be a trusted friend who isn't going to judge? Have you been in on the opposite side of that now for somebody else? And how can we basically be like Mike on the on the flip side of it?
Yeah, I certainly hope I've been that for other people. That's part of my philosophy. That's part of my
Yeah.
purpose is I want to create that safe space. And so I try to do that through being honest about what I'm going through, so people can feel like they can let their guards down. I think
Yeah.
if we can do that for the people we love and say, not that it's always about me and I'm always talking about what I'm going through, but just like one modeling, I think authenticity and honesty in general can go a really long way in opening people up. And then just, I mean, it's just awareness. It's just looking at others and you can see when they're going through hard times, or at least some of the time we can really recognize that, and just being able to extend a hand and say, "Hey, I see you. I
Yeah.
see your pain," without trying to fix it, without
Mhm.
offering a solution, but just like, "I see your pain, and if you want to talk about it, I'm here. If you want me to just sit here through it with you, I'm here." And sometimes people will resist, but that they might end up going home. I certainly have, and then thinking about it, marinating on it,
Yeah.
and then you realize, you recognize, like, you're loved. You're not alone in this process. The more that we can just show others that we're willing to listen,
Yeah.
I think the stronger we can be.
I love there's a couple points in there that I really love. One is not feeling the need to try to fix the problem. You're just listening. And I had a really good friend, he's passed away now, but he would just call from time to time and text, and he would just write, "You are loved." And
Mm,
that was it. And I'd be like, "Oh, Pete's telling me I'm loved." And there was really, and that was so meaningful for me. And I've used that. I pass it on to other people and other friends of just like, I don't ask them how it's going, or kind of the same thing about asking what people do for their career. Sometimes people don't want to talk about it. I know for me, I got really tired of talking about my concussion,
mm,
talking about the like I had to tell my one of my best friends, can we just talk about anything except my health right now? Because it's just going to make me cry. And and so just you are loved. I'm here. I love that you talked about not trying to fix it. And then the
mhm,
second thing you said that I think is worth repeating is modeling authenticity, modeling behavior, modeling honesty, modeling good communication, modeling being the change that you want to see in the world and just leading by example. And I think about this a lot, especially with social media and being a little bit of a public figure of like what to share, what not to share, because I don't want to like put my stuff all out in the world necessarily to get a response from anyone. It's to put it out there so that people can be seen themselves or might learn from the example. This podcast is exactly it too. We're talking about some of your hardship, not to really dig into like, wow, Kaya's been through some shit. We're talking about it to sort of let other people recognize the humanity and sort of the roller coaster of life.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something I actually really appreciate about you, Rebecca, when I was listening to your podcast zero, your intro to, to your life, to who you are, and you're just you're honest about the journey. You had an incredible career, multiple world champion, like so badass, so rad. And I love how honest you were about the hardship you've been through as well, sharing the loss of your mother and the hardship with the concussion and how that was, extremely difficult for you to go through. And I think the more that we can be honest about the full spectrum, the more others will feel, open to do the same thing. And social media can be such a trap. And I'll be the first to admit, I was caught in the trap. And
Yeah.
this is my year where I really want to be intentional about being authentic. But we see the highlight reel online. We see how great everyone else's life is. The grass is greener on that side. And it can make us feel even more isolated and worse. And,
Right.
when we're going through hard stuff. And so, I think it's a really beautiful thing to just be honest.
Yep.
So, because we're all in this thing, together. We're all just getting through this together.
This has kind of become a Dr. Michael Gervais podcast, but we both learned a lot from him. One of the questions where he got really into me, kind of like the question to you, why are you here? One of the questions he asked me about 5 years ago, right before I was transitioning out of competitive sport, he asked me, are you running away or running towards? And I was like, I don't know, but I can look back now and say I was running away.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Kind of like an athlete who's sort of looking behind to see who's coming instead of looking at the goal forward. And it took me a few years, and I went back and listened to his podcast episode where he asked me that. Um, and it was because I wasn't clear on what the goal was, you know? And so I was running away.
Mm.
Absolutely. So I'll kind of flip it to you. What are you running? Because I know you're not running away. You've transitioned out of competition. You're in a new career. What are you running towards right now?
Okay, well, first of all, I love that question, and it's such a stumper, for lack of a better word. Really makes you think. I am running towards understanding myself the best that I can, getting to know myself intimately, and subsequently trying to understand the human condition. And I think in that way, I can be a great mental performance coach. I really am leaning into that work. I love the team that we work with. I love the work that we do. And so I just want to continue to connect with people. I want to again, create that space of safety so that people can then take leaps. You need to have this foundation of safety within yourself in
Yeah.
order to take leaps, to take risks. And I think risks are necessary if you want to live a bigger life, a more exciting life, rich with experience. And so I want to be a part of creating that space. And then I want to light people up. I want to encourage others to take the leap, right? To take flight. Like I'm all about that. That is my purpose, is to get people to fly. So that's that in a nutshell.
And that goes into your purpose statement. Two things I wanna talk about with that. One is often as a competitive athlete, professional athlete, or even now, people going through injury or going through something. And I felt this way a little bit, that it can feel really selfish to be like, oh, I'm working on myself. I'm working on my skill. I'm either working on my skill as an athlete or whatever, or working on myself internally. And you're just sort of like, gosh, am I just always like selfishly working on myself? And to your point, you can't really, the whole point of mastery in any aspect of self is to then be able to share it with other people, and the people around you will benefit from the work that you've done internally, externally. And so I know you're nodding your head because I know you align with that, but I've definitely felt times like, gosh, am I just still working on myself? And it's a process. It's a constant process, but then the ultimate beauty is to shine that light when you get to
That's
know
right.
yourself a little bit better. You actually can shine that, and you can be your more authentic self. You really can't be authentic if you don't know yourself. And we're both in that journey. And so otherwise, you're hiding behind that ski mask, that veil, that facade, that identity of whatever identity you put in front. If you don't really know yourself, you're not really sharing yourself, I guess is the way of putting it. Do you
Yeah,
agree
I
with
mean,
that?
it starts with you, right? It
Yeah,
starts
it does.
with filling yourself up, understanding yourself, and filling your cup up so that you can then be that ripple in the pond, and spread
Yeah.
that
I even
knowledge,
get
that
that.
love, that light.
It is sharing your light. And I even get that in a physical aspect when I'm like encouraging a mom to go outside and train, go outside and ride your bike, go outside and do that. And they're like, well, I don't have time. I don't have time. I'm like, you'll be a better version of yourself if you spend a little time on yourself and then come back to your commitments. And so it happens physically, emotionally, spending that little bit of time on ourselves every day so that we can shine our light a little bit better. I want to share before we close it out. Gosh, I want to talk to you forever, but I want to share my sort of mission statement that came recently through the work with Finding Mastery on
Oh, I love it.
defining my values, because it's yours is getting people to fly, which I really love, and mine is getting people to explore. And the statement I wrote through the Finding Mastery class was, let's explore within and without. And so that's the internal journey, the external journey, and the word let's is me inviting people
Beautiful.
to be on this exploration with me as you are today.
Ah, I love it. I love it. Let's explore within and without. It's beautiful. And I feel that from you a lot. I really like you exude that, and you're very inviting. I think that's a really beautiful philosophy, and I appreciate you sharing it.
Well, and you exude flying, and I'm crafting maybe something we could run towards in the future. I could really see us teaming up as amazing mindset coaches for female athletes in professional sport. So maybe there's something there that's going to be born from this beautiful conversation.
I would love it, Rebecca. It's been such a pleasure, and I really admire who you are. I admire what you've done, and I just I so appreciate this kind of honest and open conversation. Thank you for opening up the space for me to come and to share, and I appreciate your honesty throughout as well.
Well, the respect is totally mutual, and isn't it easier to just be yourself? Like it's so much less fatiguing than trying to be somebody else. Because what is the quote? Be yourself, everyone else is taken. I can't
That's
remember
right.
who said that quote. Okay, last question, Kaya, before we go, since this is called What's the Rush and it's about taking a pause. Is there's something in your life that you're trying to edit or pause or slow at this point?
Oh, I'm constantly trying to slow myself down. I have well, I am a recovering perfectionist, if you will. Like I want everything to be, yeah, yeah. I see you raise your hand. So we're in it together. It's, constantly trying to just pace myself and recognize that that things will get done. And it's just that I want to do so much. I'm inspired, I'm excited. And so I'm working on myself. I'm working on being a coach. I'm working on the Olympics coming up. I'll be announcing for CBC in February. So tune in if you're in Canada, or if you can somehow tune in with a VPN from outside. And all these projects, I'm usually running a million miles an hour. And so I'm just trying to slow myself down and enjoy the process. When I can tell myself to slow down, I certainly enjoy it a lot more. So a
What
lot
does
of
that look
exciting
like?
endeavors.
What does that look
Well,
like when you're like getting ready for broadcasting, you're doing this, you're doing that? Like, how do you in the moment be like, okay, just it's all gonna get done? How does it look?
I I do a lot of mindfulness practice.
Mm-hmm.
About 2 or 3 times a day, I really
Right.
set aside some time, even if it's 5 minutes, just a little
Yeah.
break,
Yeah.
to break up the day, to break up the work. And I think it really helps recenter me, ground me. So then I can, because sometimes I don't recognize in the moment that I'm rushing, and I'm feeling agitated. And so just structuring that time to take a beat will help me reconnect with what I'm feeling, take a few deep breaths, and then I reset, and I can go back in with a steadier pace,
Yeah.
and be more present, essentially, and really more effective, and just, again, enjoying it so much more.
It's so true to just take a 5 or 10 minute, I call them brain breaks. This is what I've learned about my concussion, but it's off the screen,
Hmm.
maybe walk outside, maybe play with my dogs or lie down, but like 10 minutes, but it's often hard to pull ourselves away to do that, but it's so effective for the nervous system. And then you come back, like we said earlier, you come back a better version, able to shine your light a little bit better when you let it, like it's dimming and you let your light kind of come back around. So um
Yeah, it's like when you mentioned the mother who you're encouraging to go out and take the walk, get some exercise. Like it's 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 these micro, slices of discipline, of
yeah,
taking moments for ourselves. And they're hard to implement, right? Because sometimes they don't feel like they fit into the rhythm of the day, or this strong current of what's happening. But doing that eventually, or like essentially, really makes us better. And it just, like, it's these little micro things that we can do for ourselves, that yeah, make us stronger, make us more alert, make us more present, connected.
I love that little micro dosing of taking time for ourselves to relax and reset is so key. um
Absolutely.
Kaya Turski, thank you for being on What's the Rush. It's been an honor to talk to you, and I have a feeling this is the first but not the last conversation we're going to have together.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have finally met Rebecca. This is awesome, and I can't wait to connect again. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely.
Hey, it's a long and dusty road and a hot and heavy load. Folks I meet ain't always kind. Some are bad, some are good, some have done the best they could. Some have tried to ease my troubling mind. And I can't help but wonder where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Can't help but wonder where I'm bound.